Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Namaste, Franklin. Looks like we're going to have a little rain maybe today. What do they say? Oh, but it brings the flowers. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. It's been a couple of months since I've spoken here last. And every time I come, there's always somebody new I get to meet and to connect with on a heart-to-heart basis. And so I'm glad that I'm able to be here today and connect with each of you. So my talk is, I really like working with the inner landscape. I have experienced that the only way out is up. And to me, that means through consciousness. We live in a 3D world. We have duality, and that's a given. That's why we're here on earth, to move, to grow, to learn, to create. And the fastest way to move past our conditioning and the unpleasant grooves that we've developed is by looking inside at ourselves. And this is nothing new to New Thought people. We look at ourselves inside all the time. But there's some really wonderful things that I'd like to share with you today. So as we get started, I'd like you to just take a nice deep breath in and a breath out, and just really become aware of the chair you're sitting on, where your feet are, how the air feels on your skin. Get very, very present. And I'd like you to center your awareness in your heart. That is our connection to the Antriyaman, also known as divine source. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We've all heard that. It is so cliche, but it's so true. Knowing this, we are never disconnected from source. There is no one on this earth plane who has less of a connection to source than anyone else. The difference is your awareness of it. Awareness begins in the internal landscape. So one of the things that has become very apparent to me is, as we've grown into adults, we have taken on conditionings. We're conditioned from childhood. Some conditions are very positive. Some conditionings are very limited. We have conditionings from our society. We are conditioned very differently here in the Western world than folks are in the Eastern world. Our conditioning is different from country to country. Those who are in Germany have different conditioning than those who live in France. And conditioning often times creates personalities within us. The mother, the friend, the employer, the nurse, the politician. All of these personalities dependently arise in the moment that they are needed, and then they dependently cease. Looking inside, we can begin to see that there are sometimes masks that we wear without even realizing it. Now, these masks are not good and they're not bad. They just are. They're there. But when you become aware of them, a certain grace becomes flooding in to your life. And that grace is the grace of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge brings us greater and greater awareness of the divine within us. We've been taught to judge right, wrong, good and bad, pretty, ugly, hot, cold. But truly, when you take away the different layers of the conditioning, all there is source, God incarnate in physical form that we get to interact with. And this interaction is the divine connection. So I'd like you to take a moment and close your eyes, if you will, and take a deep breath and notice or remember when it is you've changed your mask. When you've been polite when you haven't felt polite. When you're called on to lead or to follow. Perhaps you've had to put on the mask of a parent. Or possibly the student. The husband. The best friend. The wife. Seeing these different masks, these different personalities that arise and cease as part of our beingness as a human being can reveal so much to us. The most important thing is to be aware of these different personalities and masks that arise and love them without judgment. So let's take another deep breath and shift some gears here. Let's look at something different. Another way to navigate through our inner landscape. And that is our attitudes of, I'm right, which conversely leads to the other person is wrong. Remember, we live in a dualistic reality. There must be balance. There cannot be light without darkness. So, take a moment and pause and reflect in the last 48 hours. Have you assumed the position of I am right? Or perhaps you've assumed the position that the other is wrong. Has being right served in your relationships with others? this need to know that what you know is so much more valid than what another person may be knowing. Again, we're not looking at these to find faults. What we are doing is looking at our inner landscape to become more self-aware. To move through life unconsciously is a waste of a life. To be connected, to know that source within you accepts and loves you, to be finally aware that everything, every shudder of every leaf, every grain of sand, every person, every being on this earth plane is part of the great divine plan, and we're all here to share together. So take a deep breath with me and exhale. And I'd like to talk about one more thing. Do you live your life covering up, protecting your self-image, projecting a likeness that you feel other people will accept? Are you truthful to yourself, even when you're not able to be 100% truthful with others? Have you ever had an experience in your life where someone you're working for has just been difficult? And in your mind, you have a few choice words for that person because you're not feeling supported and held in unconditional love? But you certainly can't speak that to your boss. Because why? You'd get fired, wouldn't you? In most cases. Maybe there's a loved one in your life and you can see something that they're doing that is not good for them or is holding them back. And yet, you know, if you say something to this person, it's going to cause so much distress in them that is going to completely and totally negate whatever good you have intended. We all move through these difficult times in our lives. And yet, in these situations, there's so much joy to be had if you know how to look within and see that you are part of divine God interacting with all the other parts of the divine God. So one more time, take a nice deep breath with me. And as you exhale, I want you to feel the radiance, the golden, beautiful radiance of Source welling up in your heart. That Source that is there 24/7, that has been there before you were born and will be there long after you leave this earth body. This is who you truly are. This is who we connect to from person to person and living being to living being. And knowing this is important, but feeling it is 1,000 times more fulfilling. So as you leave today and go out back to your workaday world, I'd like you to remember one thing, that regardless of what is in your inner landscape, you are perfect, whole, and complete. And everyone else in the universe is also perfect, whole, and complete. So thank you. Thank you for sharing a few moments with me and allowing me to express my heart and to connect with each of you. Namaste.